Regular meeting of the Village Corrales governing body. I wonder if you guys can all turn your phones on vibrate or turn them off. And once you've done that, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, missing somebody. So, Melanie, is John on Zoom?
Nope,
Okay.
not yet.
Okay, so Austin Brooks not here yet. Okay. Councilor Murray?
Here.
Councilor Burkett?
Here.
Councilor Knight?
Here.
Councilor Woolman?
Here.
Councilor Miera?
Here.
Okay. So now have you guys had a chance to go through the agenda?
Yes.
If so, I need to have a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I'll make a
Okay, I have a
motion we approve the
to
agenda.
Agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Councilor Murray?
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the agenda is approved, and now we'll go to Mr. Curry's administrator's report.
First thing up as usual is Tanya.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, Council, Administrator Curry. Some good news, a little good news, a little mixed news. So we do seem to be kind of leveling off. Last week, they thought we may be kind of on a peak in New Mexico, getting ready to climb again with COVID. But it kind of looks like we could be leveling off on cases and deaths. However, our R0, which is our spread transmission rate, last time I reported was 0.191, and we are at 0.04. Anything above 1 does mean there's uncontrolled spread. So we're just waiting to see what kind of numbers come out of that. If you haven't gotten your booster, there was a survey done, a poll throughout the United States, and about 20% of people knew that there was a bivalent or an Omicron specific booster available to them if you're over the age of 12. So that's not a lot. 80% that wasn't really sure about it. So we're going to be doing some more messaging about bivalent boosters. So far in New Mexico, only 5% of the people eligible for them have gotten their bivalent booster. I'm not sure if a lot of that is from lack of availability, because I know when we open sites, they fill almost instantly. So I know that people are trying to get them. If we did in Corrales, we've had 12 cases so far this month, which puts us just over 1 per day, which is higher than last month. Last month, we ended at 0.9 per day, which we usually see a kind of uptick October, November, January. Now it is COVID, so trying to predict what it's going to do. The past 2 years, that's when we've kind of been going up in the scales. So far, everything we're seeing and that they're finding when they do test is still an Omicron derivative. They have not come up with anything out there that is not an Omicron child as far as a variant. BA 4.6 is right now 13% of all cases in the United States, with BA5 being the highest. BA 4.6, the issue with that one is it appears to the prophylactic treatment for people who are immune suppressed or severely immune compromised is Evusheld, and that does not seem to be working to protect them the way it was with the others. So if they got BA 4.6, it's not as much of a protection. However, Paxlovid is still working very well against that. So if you're over 65, once again, I would have a plan early to at least talk to your doctor, find out how you get a hold of them on the weekend if you need a Paxlovid prescription, or there's multiple urgent cares and video visits you can do to see if you qualify for Paxlovid. That would be the #1 treatment for COVID. If you don't qualify for that because of a medication you're on, because there are several you can't take it with, the next one would be remdesivir. Both of those, Paxlovid, you can only get prescribed first 5 days of symptoms. Remdesivir can go a little bit longer, but it does work better if it's done within the first 5 days of symptoms. It's a little, it's not a pill. You have to go in 3 days in a row and get an infusion, but it does work really well. If you have not gotten your flu shot, you should get your flu shot by the end of this month. Is the perfect time to get it. If you're over 65, once again, make sure you're getting the high dose or the senior flu shot. It's got a little bit more power to help your older people's immune system work with it. All vaccines this year are quadrivalent, meaning they have 4 types of flu component in them. 2 of them are type A flu and 2 of them are type B. So this year, based on data that the WHO World Health Organization got from Australia, who did have a very substantial flu vaccine, flu season, they picked H1N1, H3N2, and then the B strains are Victoria and Yamagata strains. So hopefully this year it'll be good, but you know, it could be a different strain, but it still does help boost your immunity either way. Monkeypox is actually going down throughout the United States. We do have vaccines still available, and those can be found through the New Mexico Department of Health. And the last thing I have is Bernalillo County did have its first case of New Mexico avian flu, which is the flu that's been killing birds and poultry around the United States. We got our first case last week in Bernalillo County, Hull Flock. If anyone does have sick poultry, they do need to report it to the state veterinary's office right away. You can also do the USDA. They will want to test it. State vet's office number is 505-841-6161, and I will keep those numbers with me and just in case someone needs them. And that's really all I have. We've been doing a lot of vaccines. Oh, the kids vaccine. We're hoping that the FDA, CDC will come out with something, whether they agree with the vaccine booster for 5 and above of the bivalent. We're thinking maybe the 14th of October. And we are running a flu shot. It does not have the senior flu, but a flu shot COVID clinic on the 23rd. The COVID piece is already completely full. We still do have some flu availability. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. Tanya, how's the avian flu transmitted? What's the easiest way that it gets transmitted around?
So migratory birds. They're not really worried about people getting this one. It's more about killing of the livestock or the birds, the poultry. Migratory birds carry it. They believe migratory ducks are a big one that carry it, but any migratory bird, any bird at all. So the best way to prevent is to try to, which I know is hard, try to keep the doves and the sparrows and all coming in to eat your poultry food. If you've got a coop and a run that they're enclosed, you might want to put netting completely around it to keep them out. But that's the way they get it from migratory birds.
But there's no physical method where maybe from their droppings or anything like that, that a person could pick it up and then transmit it into their coop somehow?
No, they could. So anyone who has coops should know about your husbandry stuff. If you wear shoes into your coop, you should really change them, not wear them into your house. Big poultry breeding, those kind of places, they change and put you in to stuff or bleach your shoes. You could do bleach buckets if you've got a big yard and you're walking around, you could do bleach buckets and stick your feet in, you know, if you wear muck type boots and bleach them before you going in. The birds drinking from the water, sharing of food. It is highly contagious. I'm hoping since migratory season's going through, it won't be as bad here in New Mexico. I mean, we were lucky. We got none when all these other cities and states were getting it quite a bit this summer, spring and summer.
Thank you.
thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to ask Melanie to talk about the animal services and the Christmas parade.
And also, it looks like Counselor Brooke just joined in by Zoom. So I did hear from the Equestrian Committee this morning. It looks like the Christmas de los Caballos parade is not going to happen this year. They had some issues with some of the committee members have left the commission, and it has made organizing the event a little more difficult. So they would like to try next year, bringing the event back when they have more time to kind of plan and hopefully request some money in their budget for the village to pay some of the costs of the event. So they are going to try and do a ride-in roundup sort of event at the arena, and they're working on details of that here in the next day or two. So they're hoping to maybe do an event where they can collect toys for the toy drive that the fire department does at Christmas time instead of the parade.
Oh, I'm sorry. Counselor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. So how many were on the committee and how many left?
So the commission is supposed to have 7 members and 2 have left. We do have a reappointment, or what's a new appointment of a former member on the agenda for tonight. But one of the people that left was the person that was kind of spearheading the organizing of the event. And there were some issues outside of the commission that led to that person having to step down.
Okay, thank you, Melanie.
Yeah. And then as far as the animal services, we are on the agenda for planning and zoning to bring the site development plan for the administration complex for their December 14th meeting. And at that, we'll bring forth the plan for the parking lot remodel as well as the new kennel for animal services. So I'm working on getting a new quote from Horizon Structures that came in this morning. And they do need a deposit to actually create the floor plan for us, since it will be a custom design. And so we're working on getting that funding sent off so we can have a nice plan to show planning and zoning on December 14th. And once we get the floor plan, then I can go to facility build and get a quote on what it will cost for the cement slab. So hopefully by the end of this month, we'll have a better idea of what the entire project will cost. And again, Dennis Friends Foundation did say they would fund pretty much all of it, if not the entire thing. So it kind of depends on how much it costs. And we did already get $25,000 from Commissioner Brock from Sandoval County, and that's what we'll be using to pay for the deposit for the structure.
Yes.
Mayor, councilors, Melanie, if you get the go-ahead on December 14th for approval, is there an estimate how long it might take for the building to be constructed, shipped, and assembled, when it might be operational?
Yep, they said right now their current timeline is about 3 months from the time the building is ordered until it is delivered.
Potentially the end of March, the middle of April or so?
Yeah,
Okay.
and of course, that will be contingent upon facility build having good weather and being able to pour our cement slab and all of that. So there may be a little fine tuning there that we have to do with that. But yeah, hopefully by the spring, we'll have our new facility up and running.
And in the meantime, that whole back area, which will be, I guess, in front of the building, between where you now have the pens, will be landscaped or some synthetic turf or something put down and ready to go.
We haven't talked about synthetic turf, but
Okay.
we could maybe look into what that would be.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just along the same topic, there's been some lingering discussion about exploring other options as far as location. Where does that fall in the timeline, that discussion?
Well, I think the other area that was sort of floated about was the fire station too.
Yep.
But looking at the long-term plans for that, it doesn't look like we really have the space up there to do that for what we would like to do for the training facilities in the fire department.
Our view is that this is a centralized location that people are familiar with, and this is an appropriate area to put the dog facility, cat facility, animal facility.
Yeah, I just worry from a long-term perspective that we're going to regret having a modular structure with cats and dogs sitting in amongst all these newly renovated buildings and pocket parks and all that type of stuff. And it's going to be something that comes back and gets explored again in the future.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Just a reminder, everybody, early voting has started, but not here at the community center. It will start on the 22nd here. And then in the meantime, it's over at the rec center being run by Sandoval County.
It's at the county clerk's office.
I think
County
it's
clerk's
county
office,
clerk's
I'm sorry.
office, yeah.
Rec center on election day.
Yeah. County clerk's up on Idalia Road, so we have a lot of people coming in looking to vote here, so. And then, as you may know, the glass recycling has been moved over to the Public Works right up Double S Road. And we're getting a lot of calls on that, so, but it's open and operating.
We're getting calls because people don't know where to go.
And then we're working with the Gonzalez property. Randy's and administration is working again with the title company, and we're making progress. Randy, do you want to venture a guess as to how close we are?
We're just awaiting word from the title company on the last issues they had to clear up with the title of the property.
Any questions? Stuart?
Yeah, Mayor, this is just more of a comment, especially on the committee reports. I do thank the Interior Drain Committee and the equestrian, or the Bicycle Committee for submitting their reports, but I think that we need to urge the other committees and commissions, please submit your information so we can get this information before the council. I think that one, I'll just point out one, the Parks and Recs, I haven't seen anything in set last 6 months from them. If I didn't read their minutes that are posted online, I wouldn't know what they were doing. One reason we went to the quarterly reports was to simplify their paperwork. So if they only had to come up maybe once a quarter, give us a synopsis of what they're doing. I'd just like to see more of the committees do this. And I think it's important that for transparency reasons that they do it. Maybe we need to revisit some of these committees because maybe they're not active anymore. And so maybe we need to take a look at that too.
You mean like maybe we should not have so many?
Well, it's not so many, it's just that maybe some of them are not active. The Water Commission might be another. I mean, they've done good work in the past, but have they ever met in the last couple of years? Who knows? So I just like to, maybe we need to take a look at that and just see who's active, who's not, and maybe we can pare that down a little bit.
It's certainly a wonderful idea. I like that idea. Okay. Anybody else? Ron, you got anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, so now we'll move on to Counselors Forum. Anyone want to speak additionally? Stuart?
All right, thank you, Mayor, Councilors. Yeah, there's a couple of things I wanted to kind of bring up. There was an article in the Corrales Comet I want to kind of revisit because it was on the salt yard noise that we're having down the south end. So the article came out in the September 30th issue, and they basically went over on a Thursday night to do a kind of a report to see how noisy it was. Well, Thursday nights are not a good night because they don't have anything going on that night. It's usually the Fridays and Saturdays where we have the issue. And so I think the article was a little bit misleading, and I just wanted to make sure that people in this village understand it. Salt yard noise is an issue. Now, as we get into winter, it's probably not going to be a big issue. But when we get back into spring and the things start opening up, then it's going to be coming back to bite us again. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Also, I had an inquiry about volunteer group to help clean up sagebrush. And I think Mike Chavez reported back that he didn't have a problem with that. And I just wondered if maybe we should expand this idea of volunteer groups, maybe taking on a portion of a road like Loma Larga or Corrales Road to help maintain and clean up. Kind of like what Albuquerque does, Los Ranchos, I think, does it. Maybe we should maybe take a look at that and see if that's something maybe we want to ask these volunteer groups or these, like Champ or Kiwanis Club or Village in a Village, if they want to take on a portion of our roads and maintain that for trash purposes. And then I just wanted to thank Mike for his quick response on some signs that were missing on Loma Larga. Great response. I think I mentioned it on a Friday and it was done by Monday. So anyway, great response. I'd like to thank him for that. Thank you.
So in response to cleanups, if anyone volunteers for cleanups and asks me, I say, absolutely. How much do you want to clean up? And what do you want? What do you need? And then I make some suggestions about what they should wear and what kind of things they should have at hand. And then just, let the police know, let us know when they're going to do it.
Yeah.
So we can tell our public works people and let the police know that there'll be people out there. And most of these have been along Loma Larga. Not too many people want to go up and down Corrales Road and pick up trash.
Well, I understand, but some groups, they take a portion of that road and they'll say this,
Correct.
I own this portion or they own this portion.
Right.
And they maintain them. So anyway, it's just a thought.
No, I think that's fine. I don't have any problem with that at all. Anyone else? Okay, well, we'll move on to Corralanos Forum. Melanie, who do you have?
First up, we have Mr. Kurt Flora. Mr.
So-
Flora,
Melanie,
Yes.
did you
Yes.
say John is here now?
I believe so. I
Okay,
think I saw his name pop up on our participants list.
That is correct. I am in attendance.
okay, thank you very much. Okay,
And Mr. Flora, if you could state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thanks for 4 or 5, 6 Andrews Lane, Charles, New Mexico. September 19th, 5 days before that council meeting, or commission meeting, we turned in 120 petition signatures, signed petition on that versus gross. Well, that was not turned in to the commission that 5 days before. It was handed to the commission on that day of the meeting. Now, just to prove this, I'm gonna turn my volume up real quick.
So we are done for the evening. Is there a motion? Yes, sir. I have a question. In my packet, there was this folder with a lot of signatures on it. What is the significance of that? Like a petition of some kind? That was in regards to the first item that we heard tonight, the Flora property.
Okay, so then those petitions were not turned in a timely manner. They were given to the commission in a folder underneath the next agenda. So they weren't even in our packet. The next thing I would like to bring up is that you see me out on the roads. I have another petition going right now. I have over 120 signatures to fire Lori Stout for corruption. Okay, we already have 120 in 3.5 days. There's a lot of mad people here in Corrales. There's a lot of mad people. The third thing I would like to bring up is apparently our deed, the whole deed, did not get to Mr. Garcia, the last village attorney. Here he states that the deeds presented by the applicant, sub-zone 1802, dating back to signatures 1953, 1964, and 2019 reflect the same identical land description boundaries without reference to any subdivision in the separate part of the lots, especially in the deeds. Well, apparently these didn't get to Mr. Garcia because these are two separate deeds with two separate lot descriptions. There are tract 60 with its own lot description, and there's tract 2 with its own lot description. So these two lots makes our subdivision in 1953 when the deeds was first done. So we are a subdivision, an old subdivision already, with a 20-foot road that is grandfathered in. The Eber Farm plat that was done in 2014.
Thank you, Mr.
before
Flora. That's your
ours
time.
Was granted because
That's
they
your
were
time,
grandfathered
Mr.
into
Flora.
a 20-foot easement. So, and then.
Thank you,
one
sir.
more thing is, in 2014, when that was done, and then we were granted a 20-foot easement with Commissioner Sabrina. Okay, Yes, we've been granted 3 times with a 20-foot easement in our property already.
Thank you, Mr.
Been
Flora.
grandfathered in.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have Daniel Johnson. And Mr. Johnson, if you could also state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Daniel Johnson, I live in Gateway, Wellford. I just have more signatures for Mr. Flores' petition. I don't know if I give them to you.
Yes, please. All right. I need more signatures for the petition. That's going to bring it over to. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I believe that is everyone for our Correlanos Forum this evening.
Okay. So next we go to the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look through the consent agenda? It's basically the minutes for 2 meetings and 4 reappointments to the Agriculture Commission. Do I have a motion to approve, or is there someone who wants to pull something off?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Counselor Knight makes a motion to approve, and Counselor Miera seconds it. Okay. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, John. So the consent agenda is approved. Next, we go to new business. Consideration, action, and approval of Resolution 22-57, authorizing assignment of authorized officer and agent for the Corrales Fire Suppression Project grant. This is a grant, legislative grant that we've received. Chief, do you want to make any comments about it? It's just assigning who's going to sign for the grant, correct, Melanie? Yeah,
That's correct.
and that would be the mayor?
That's right.
Yeah. And the alternate person or the attester is Raina?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone want the fire chief to,
I'll make a motion, we approve 2257.
okay, I have a motion
Second.
to approve and a second from Counselor Knight. Any further discussion, anything else? Okay, so this is a resolution, so how do you vote, Counselor Murray?
Aye.
Counselor Alsobrook, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Okay, so resolution number 22-57 is passed. And next we go to, let me get my paperwork here. It's terrible when you have a mask on, you can't lick your finger. Consideration, action, and approval of resolution 22-58, approving time extension for the co-op agreement such and such with NMDOT in the village of Kraus. And this is because we have not completed the project yet. We had to ask for an extension of a year, mainly because we had some issues with gas lines. Is that correct, Michael?
Yes, Mayor, councilors, so this fund itself, I don't know if it got tied up or how, but we didn't even get the distribution till last March. And it was the July before that when we were given the award, so we've kind of had some issues with it. But this is for the redesign of Coronado above Loma Larga to the village limits. And we're gonna redesign it with an inverted crown. So we're also having some issues with the gas line locations. The gas company's mapping was way off compared to our physical locating. So we're trying to coordinate with them. I just don't really see that we would finish this in time, so I want to extend this just to give us some breathing room.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
I move we approve resolution 2258.
Okay, I have a motion to approve from Counselor Knight
Second.
and a second from Counselor Woolman. Counselor Murray, how do you vote?
Aye.
Counselor Miera?
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh,
I'm
excuse
sorry.
me, I'm sorry.
Just the math on this, it says it's a 75-25 split, but the numbers don't align with that, the actual dollar amounts. Is that something we should be concerned about, or is,
So those numbers came directly from NMDOT. so-
okay, because yeah, 80,000 and 26,667, I mean, well, I guess,
Yeah,
No.
I had that thought too when I was typing it up, but those were the numbers on.
all right.
on
And maybe it
the-
does math, and maybe my math's wrong. Actually saying it out loud, I think it does add up. So disregard my previous commentary.
How do you vote?
I vote aye.
Counselor Knight, did I already ask you?
Aye.
Okay. And
Aye.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Alsobrook?
Vote aye.
I may have already asked you, I forgot.
No, no.
Okay, so the resolution number 22-58.
Yes.
Oh, you didn't vote?
Nope.
Oh, gosh, I knew I forgot somebody. Okay.
Actually, I was gonna have a question, but.
Oh, go ahead.
it
Ask your
just-
question.
It was very brief. It just said that if there was anything over that, we were gonna pay for it. Over the 126,000, right? But we're not expecting that.
6,000. That's correct. Michael?
It won't be over that. The design itself is, I believe it's 56,000. So what I will also do, I'm gonna move part of that over to Cadillo Lane so we can get that road paved.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay. So resolution 22-58 is passed. All right. So next we have consideration, action, and approval of appeal decision, findings and conclusions of law for the September 27, 2022 appeal hearing for the variance VAR 22-05, excuse me. So, Counselor Audio, would you like to talk about the items for approval of the appeal decision?
In preparing the findings, decision, and conclusions, I simply attempted to put into writing what was discussed at the meeting and what was in the record. So I stand for any questions.
Okay. Did you have a question?
Mayor?
Yes, sir. Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. Yeah, your conclusions of law down there on number 4, where it says the variance is not a variance related to use, but only law control of height. But I think it is a function of use. So I think maybe that statement maybe need to be corrected if somehow.
It is absolutely related to use because that's why we had to have it so high.
Well, the situation, the reason why it's related to a lot control is because it would involve any building on a municipal lot. It didn't have to do with this specific building, any building that had to be that high. So I would disagree with your characterization that it's not accurate. I think it is legally accurate. When you're looking at any variance, height is related to what the lot allows and what it's used for. Here we had a 17-acre lot, which was absolutely crucial to this decision. If it had been a 1-acre lot with a 35-foot building, there would have been an entirely different decision.
Okay.
All right, Mayor, just one other comment that I do not support this findings of conclusions. That I think it's flawed, and I think that the council made a bad decision, but being as it may, it's here before us.
Well, you get an opportunity to vote. We're going to.
Well, I will.
Okay. So, Counselor Alsterbrook, did you have?
I vote yes.
You vote yes? Counselor Miera?
Yes.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
No.
Okay. Now we're going to go to a discussion of changes to Chapter 6 of the Village Code of Ordinances regarding microchipping of animals. So Counselor, I think
Mayor?
Counselor Woolman.
Mayor, did we get a motion to vote on the
We did
the
not.
appeal? Do we need a motion?
So, okay,
It would be, simply the motion would have been to
approve the appeal.
enter the decision, approve, granting the appeal and approving the findings and conclusions.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. And everybody except for Counselor Murray is going to approve it, okay. So now we're going to talk about the microchipping of animals. And Counselor Woolman, did you want to make any comments?
Yeah, I could. Randy, did you want to go first, or I just have some brief comments to make?
I think maybe Randy should go first.
Let me give the
because-
background, and then you should weigh in, and then this
Sure.
is just the beginning of the discussion, not the end.
Sure.
So what we've done on this is, as you all know, our ordinance right now only calls for microchipping when animals are adopted, that have been abandoned animals. So we do require that in that instance, but that instance only. We have attached to the agenda, as you've seen, some examples from surrounding communities. We are more advanced than some communities. Sandoval County doesn't even have any licensing of domesticated animals. in Sandoval County. So we're ahead of them in that regard. Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque were examples here. We're kind of the leaders in the region in regards to their animal welfare ordinances. And so these two examples show how they dealt with microchipping. And essentially what it is it is a requirement that goes along with your licensing of the animal. And there are variations of ways to do that. In Albuquerque, the cost of the license covers the cost of the microchipping, for example. And then as I was talking to Councilor Woldman ahead of time, and as he pointed out, the city of Las Cruces actually does something different, which is the microchipping acts as a license if the microchipping is done. So essentially, I think the decision point tonight is A, does the village wish to add to the current microchipping requirements we have in our ordinance? And B, if so, then what, we can begin the discussion of what methodology to use.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilors, Randy. As indicated, the packet contains ample information. The change will apply to those animals who are not being adopted out by Animal Services. These new provisions will apply to companion animals who get out of their properties and are picked up by Animal Services. Those animals who are adopted out by Animal Services will be microchipped as a matter of policy covered by the current ordinance. The model ordinance that's in the packet presented seems applicable. In addition, as Randy mentioned, Las Cruces allows a microchip to substitute for a license. I think this makes sense, since my guess is, and Catherine from Animal Services is here tonight, she can verify or dispute that many people in the village may not license their companion animals in their homes. Animal Services staff can be trained to insert a microchip. There is, as Randy, my assumption was, and Randy has confirmed, there is no state law which prohibits this. Animal Services can offer microchipping to any animal in the village for a fee. In section B2, the model ordinance waives the fee for those falling below a 200% of the area poverty level. I think this is needlessly cumbersome. Animal Services can make that determination. They can charge perhaps $25 for microchipping. Vets in the area typically charge about $60 for microchipping. They can use the money beyond their cost to provide the service for those who may not be able to afford the microchip. This new provision will allow for companion animals to return to their owners safely in a timely manner. If the owners are not immediately available, on vacation or out of state, in the near future, the new Animal Services facility will be available to temporarily hold them until the owners can return and claim their animals. I think this comprehensive approach makes sense for the village that treasures their companion animals, and I would urge its adoption.
Yes, Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, just listening to that and seeing the difference between if the village would do the microchipping versus a vet, would we be covered under insurance and things if something happened with that?
So that is one of the questions, Councilor, that is for us. I think we do want to hear from Animal Services, and we do want to determine how we want to implement the program. We certainly don't have staffing levels like the city or Bernalillo County, and it is possible, but I'm not an expert in this area, and I want to have the experts confirm that it's possible to have one microchipping database, for example, regardless of where the animals are microchipped. And Councilor Goldman is one of those folks.
Yeah, I asked the same question, and apparently there are something like 50 different microchipping companies, but the new scanners that are used to determine whether or not there are microchips in the animal is universal, so it covers all of that. I think you're getting at a different question, perhaps,
Right.
which is a liability question.
Liability, as far as, you know, if somebody microchips a dog or whatever and they do it in the wrong place, or the dog gets an infection, how does that work?
Yeah,
That's
and
what I'm
my
talking about.
question that I asked Randy a couple weeks ago was whether or not a simple waiver of liability to be signed at the time that the microchip is put in might be enough to cover the village.
Well, I think what we need to determine is how is microchipping handled by veterinarians? Is it a medical procedure, or is it simply, it's, from what I've heard, it's like a shot that's administered that places the chip under the skin.
Right.
And is much like the administration of shots. So who can do that? And so I don't have those answers,
Okay.
but it is a concern we have to deal with, that we want to make sure we're doing it correctly.
So along those
Councilor
lines, while we were discussing this, I was looking up the same thing. The American Veterinarian Medical Association, which obviously part of them is driving business towards veterinarians, but they say that it is recommended that it's only done under the guidance of a veterinarian. So there is a governing body that specifically states that it should be done under the guidance of a veterinarian, and it would make me a little bit nervous to go against that.
So the other option might be, as mentioned in some of the research you've done, is that a voucher is issued by Animal Services to be executed within, perhaps the wrong choice of words, to be used within a 30-day period or a 10-day period, whatever we set, to make sure that the microchip is done and is done by a vet. It's another option.
And those are the details that you all are asking about that we will need to determine properly for us. It's easy for someone like Albuquerque or Bernalillo County who have veterinarians on staff.
Right.
So we do need to make this right size this for Browns.
Yes, Stuart.
So do we have a vet on contract? Or veterinary service on contract?
Dr. Gutierrez.
Okay.
Anybody else? So you would like for us to go ahead and move forward on this and try to come up with an ordinance, modification, a model ordinance for microchipping the pets?
Just one more question for clarity, I guess. Are we looking at microchipping just pets that come through our services, or are we going to ask all the citizens in the village with all their current pets to have this done by a certain time?
And that's one of the biggest issues we have with which way to go. Right now, as I said, we just do adoption of animals. We could do just return of animals that are strays, or we could do all animals at the time of licensing. So it would give them a time when we license them in an upcoming year, we would charge the fee and there would have to be microchipping. So that's the policy decision that you all have to consider, which direction you'd rather go. And if there's any other information you need to see before you decide.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I might suggest that perhaps this is something we could put on the agenda for the work study for next week? Or is that, it's a pretty full agenda, I imagine, at this point.
Well, we were going to talk about a bunch of projects, and that would probably generate a lot of questions, but if you'd like, we can certainly put this on as, if we didn't want to use up more than an hour of your time, so we were trying to do 4 things, but we can add it to the agenda, and if we can get to it, we'll get to it.
If I perhaps ask a question of Ms. Keller, my thinking was not necessarily to require at licensing microchipping for all animals in the village, but for those animals who are being adopted out and those animals that you were to pick up and bring in, be microchipped, and then make available to citizens of the village if they wanted to have their animals.
We technically already do that with most of the citizens. So if we pick up their animal, we already offer it. Hey, do you have $5 in your pocket? Do you have $10? Can you just cover the cost of the microchip for us? We'll go meet you at the vet's office. We'll get it done for you, and then you're on your way. Then you have it registered, done within a day. Yes, with all of our adopted animals, when they go in for surgery, they get everything done. Return animals, we do the same thing. We offer it as much as possible, so that helps us get the animal home. That is our biggest concern.
Exactly, yeah.
Right now, I'm dealing with 3 bigger dogs that have no home.
Yeah, but you have no more puppies.
No,
All
thank
the-
goodness, thank
They had
goodness.
eight puppies come in this week?
At one point in time, we had 11 animals in my care.
Yeah, yeah.
8 of them being puppies, and they're all in my office. But we do try to help the community out. We say, hey, that's why we have the voucher program. Your animal's not fixed. Let's get it all done at once and then we can do the microchip. Just pay me $10. You're good.
Now, there was a rather successful, I think, microchipping of horses recently.
Yes, I have talked to Miss Patty Flanagan about, Champ bought us a new scanner. So they are implementing it. They even had a clinic and it's just right in their neck. So that even helps us get those animals home, because I've had a horse to where nobody cleaned it. And we're at that point of, who owns this horse and what do we do with the horse? But yes, microchipping is a big thing for us, let alone just a hauler type, so we can get the animal home is our biggest thing. So
My guess is that you, although you, in past years, knew most of the animals in the village and could return them meat,
yes,
that there are a lot of
I
new
know
people.
most of the delinquents in Corrales.
And there are a lot of new people moving into the village and a lot of new animals. So I think this would be really helpful. So
Yes.
thank you for your help.
Counselor Knight?
It sounds like you're already having, when you find a dog, that you're already microchipping them. Are you bringing?
We're
are you-
starting that process.
hold on.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
So are you bringing them over to the vet to do that then? And how much does that cost the person whose dog it is?
When we pick up their animal, if they don't have any money to their name, we just say, hey, can we go ahead? Would you like a microchip? If you have no money, let's just get it done. It's part of our program. We can get you a microchip so we can get the dog home.
Okay,
Most
so,
people don't know that we have a program now.
okay.
So that's our biggest thing, is try to word of mouth education. And then, yes, we do take the animal to Corrales Vet. The staff there are wonderful. They help us out with anything. If I call one of the girls down there and say, hey, I have a dog here that needs to be microchipped, can you guys take 10 minutes? They do it real quick, give me the information, I register it.
So we do have that vet on call or contract?
Kind of a contract with our voucher program. We also have a Sakia, and I can also get with them and see if they would help us implementing the microchip thing. I just don't know how it would be because they're technically out of the village limits. But Corrales Vet we use because they are in the village limits and they're willing to work with us with whatever we got.
So who normally funds this?
Dennis Friend.
Dennis Friends, yes.
And they've been a big, tremendous help.
Yes, sir.
So two questions. One, this is something maybe the New Mexico Municipal League can help as far as other smaller municipalities that have done this already, but I'd love to see some smaller ones examples, because we've got Albuquerque, Las Cruces, and Bernalillo County, which are all very large and have a lot of resources that we don't have, so we can look at theirs, but it'd be nice to see the policy of some municipalities that are smaller and have similar resources that we have.
I do know Rio Rancho, they train their kennel staff, because that's where I came from, to microchip and give shots before the dog goes into the vet to get the rabies shot and to get fixed. So we were already implementing the microchipping and normal shots. I haven't done microchipping in probably almost 10 years. So if I got a refresher course, yes, but I don't feel safe doing it. That's why I haven't done it.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
What's a typical charge, the vets? We heard about $60. Is that accurate?
About $60 to get a cat or a dog fixed. That's the base price.
Microchip.
Oh, microchipping, from the vet's office, yes, it's $60 with us. We just, however, we can get them to $5, $10. I know that with our ordinances, we're gonna go up a little bit to whatever they can. It's low income, so we're trying to help out those families, make sure that they can get their animal home the best way.
Councilor Mier.
My question was going to be on the money part. I've heard that we had some funds, but those are the Friends are doing it, you said. They're supplanting.
Dennis Friends actually granted us a grant for our voucher program to help spay neuter. To get
okay.
all those animals. So they're not only helping us with the spay neuter program, they've actually helped us, they put up our fence, basically. They've actually helped us out with a lot of things, so even with this building now.
Okay. And in the actual writing of the ordinance, I take it there's a reciprocity already taken into consideration that come in with it, that's allowable?
Say one more time.
I was going to the actual framing of the ordinance.
Well, I think what I think what we'll have to look at in regards, are you referring to the operation of the program for using the funds from the,
No, if they're bringing in an animal from someplace else, I mean, the reciprocity obviously takes into consideration that part.
I understand, yes, if your animal's microchipped, that's all you would need to do. But again, going to the question of only worrying about the animals who come through that are lost,
Right.
or implementing it as a proactive requirement along with licensing. Those are the two paradigms that I'm seeing working here.
Yeah.
If I can ask one more question. Do you have many instances where animals are coming into the village from outside of Corrales that have been microchipped?
Yes.
Do you see that?
We do see that, sometimes, mostly in the rancho, like from down
right.
in the hill. Especially with Fiesta, we had a couple of officers on the rancho. I actually sent a school, they're all worried about the river and live in the middle of the rancho. So, yes, we get them from every year. We can get people calling us about a route program, which is routes people only. We have past trouble with the rancho people just not paying the bill, and we're getting stuck with that, so it's like, we're just gonna vouch for routes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Councilman Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, councilors. I think that this is a worthwhile program, and I think we ought to explore all the options and come up with some kind of a modification to the ordinance, and pursue this, and have Randy explore the liability and all those issues that we've drummed up tonight. I think it's very important.
Mayor?
Anyone else?
Yes, Mayor. Just
Oh,
a quick,
John, sorry, geez.
that's all right. It's just a comment that, well, I think it's good for us to microchip any animal that comes through our doors. That is, great for those repeat offenders. I think really the place to be is out in front and microchip before they escape. Otherwise, we're still dealing with escaped animals with no chip. And so along those lines, if possible, as part of any ordinance, I'd like us to consider sponsoring low cost or, well, it's hard for us to be free if we're sponsoring it because of the non-donation clause, but I'd like to see us sponsor low cost microchipping events at frequent intervals, just to encourage the rest of the community to get their companion animals microchipped before they get loose.
Would those events be limited to the village of Corrales?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think we should encourage everyone to get their animals microchipped wherever they might take them. I don't know that we would. You mean, could we be a sponsor at, say, a county fair or something? I don't know. I was just thinking of us first.
Okay. Yes.
I have one more question. You had stated that somebody donated, the Champ community donated a microchip scanner. So does that scan dogs and cats as well as horses, right? Okay, thank you.
And if I may,
Yes,
is
sir.
that accurate that that all the microchipping companies now can be what's the word? That you can use a scanner for across the board for all microchipping companies?
So there's many different microchipping companies, and very well candidate. But yes, there's a database system where we enter that microchip, any number, any scenario, whatever it is, and it pulls up who implanted that microchip, who bought that microchip, so then we can call and say, hey, we need all this information, as much information as we can get.
And when you take an animal to the vet to be microchipped, who does the registration? Who actually phones the company and does the registration?
Between myself and Raya, we actually go online, we have a database system we already implanted, where when that animal is already implanted with that microchip, we get that number, we're already implementing it before that animal goes home back to
The family, or for a new adopter, you'll put the new name and address and contact information.
As soon as we're done picking up that paperwork and basically on our way home, that microchip is already registered to that family, to that adult.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? John, you have anything?
No, nothing else.
Thank you very much, Kat. Okay. So you are directing the administration to come up with something. All right, there you go, Randy. Next is 5, discussion of village ordinance, chapter 10, article 3, vendors with regards to requirements for operation of food trucks in the village. And this is something that our village clerk and her deputy have been working on, and perhaps you can give us just a brief overview. I think you've got a nice little synopsis here at the beginning.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. So last week, we had a new food truck company come into the village, and they said, we want to serve Corrales, what do we need to do? So Sky and I had already discovered that we have a $100 vendor fee that we should be charging all the food trucks, and we have not been doing this. And from what I can tell looking back, this hasn't been done since at least 2016. It looks like it may have been done at the Harvest Festival in 2019. I did come across a list of food trucks, and it was listed as vendor list. So perhaps we charged it then. But in talking to Bridget up front in reception, she has no memory of ever collecting that fee for anybody, and she's been with us since 2015. So in working with them, I was like, okay, we have some things that we have not been enforcing. And like I said, Sky and I had already talked about looking at ways we can go ahead and implement that $100 vendor fee. So we're going to be bringing you a fee list. Another thing we came across in our ordinances is the administration office is supposed to have a fee schedule available, and that document does not exist currently. So we're working on getting that and then bringing that to you for approval. So what we'd like to do is go ahead and start charging that fee starting maybe like in January, and that gives us time to contact the food trucks and all of that. But then in further looking at the ordinances, I came across, I believe it is section 10-58, sections A, 1, and 2. And this says that a food truck can only be parked on a premises for less than 24 hours in a 7-day period unless it is on the business's site development plan. So we haven't done that with any of our businesses. I actually reached out to Joel at Ex Novo this afternoon, and I said to him, you know, we're gonna have this discussion tonight, and I don't want it to be like a game of telephone where it gets back to you and what you hear is, oh, the village is gonna get rid of food trucks. And so I said, you know, as a business owner who this is going to affect, you know, this is what I found. What would you like me to ask on your behalf of the council? And his response was, what was the intent of this ordinance to begin with? Was it that we didn't want food trucks coming in from other places and running out our restaurants that are already here and are already established in Corrales? If that's the case, then yeah, we can see the benefit of that. But again, we haven't done that with these businesses. How do we go back? A site development plan can be a lengthy and costly process. Do we want to go back and make these businesses do that or can we grandfather them in? So that's why I had gone to the mayor and I said, can we bring this discussion to the council and get some guidance on how we go about doing that? Is this something that needs to stay on our books? Is this something that we can maybe remove and find a better way to help these businesses? Because I think the food trucks are kind of the wave of the future, so to speak. I know Sandia Bar has talked about bringing in a food truck. Casa Vieja has talked about bringing in food trucks. Ex Novo already is doing that. And so, you know, when I talked to Joel at Ex Novo, he said, you know, I don't see any issue with charging the vendor fee, the annual $100, along with the business registration fee, you know, to help kind of supplement income here in the village. But, you know, is this part, yes.
I just have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor. So most of the food trucks I see are mobile. Are there any ones that are stationary that are there all the time?
No, but when I did talk to Joel, he said that they are working on getting an ex novo truck that would be there.
And that
full-time.
has happened.
Yeah. Yeah, so
It's there
was-
now.
It's
Yeah,
there now, yeah.
yeah, so he was concerned about that because, as I said, he wasn't aware of this, and up until just earlier last week, I wasn't aware that it was something that was in our ordinances either. And here on section 2 says that no mobile food unit shall be parked or left on the property overnight. So that would make it difficult for ex novo if that's going to be a permanent fixture. So I guess I'm coming to you and saying,
Yeah.
please help. Because I don't want to run these businesses out of Corrales. But at the same time, we do have this ordinance, and, just like everything else, if we aren't enforcing our ordinances,
It's not okay.
yeah, right.
It's not okay.
Well, just like all businesses, they should have a business license.
Right.
Right, and one of the things we ran into is, like with the businesses that came in, we had a lot of food trucks that came in for the Harvest Festival. And the Harvest Festival people were wonderful in saying, yes, you all need to have a business license. But now we have all of these business licenses out there that are active and good for a year, because that's what our ordinances say, is your business license is good for a year. But we don't know if they're going to come in and, are they following all of our other regulations? Do they have fire inspections? Are they, do they have their permits from the environment department? So we would also like to see about maybe getting a vendor fee that would be a one-time fee that could cover things like the Harvest Festival and craft fairs and things like that, that's not currently covered in this ordinance.
Councilman Mira?
Mr. Mayor, two quick questions. One of them is, when was this ordinance adopted?
2016.
I don't think we had hardly any. It's funny that they put one in.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a whole lot to
Right,
start
and
from.
that's kind of why I was wondering, what was the intent of the ordinance to begin with? Was it,
Exactly.
Was it that we were concerned about food trucks coming in and reducing business of our established restaurants?
So the other question I have then is, if you did the $100, then the assumption is that's what it's for, because they get licensed, and now they do check if they have this, and that. Are we going to do the same if we have the $100? Are we going to be in a position to do the checking?
Yeah, I did find an old permit, or like a form that was an application that vendors would fill out, and it answered, there's a whole list of requirements in the ordinance of things like it needs to have the property owner's permission to be on the site. Do they have all of their proper permits? Do they have a tax identification number, those kinds of things. So I did find a form that we would like to go ahead and start using for that, so we can make sure that they're following up.
And that's
And
where
this
that-
would be in addition to the business license, and it
Yeah.
does state that in the ordinance, that this is in addition to the $35 business license.
And that's where that question goes, Mr. Mayor, is that we're going to accept what Albuquerque or Bernalillo County said it was okay for them with regards to the cleanliness and whether or not they had a hood, et cetera. So we accept that. We're just taking the $100 for the licensing fee, not for the inspection thereof.
Right, I believe that all of that comes from the State Department, the Environment Department, so that's like a statewide thing. So I think we'd be okay there, as long as they have the proper permits on the state level, then they should be okay. But, again, if the fire chief wants them to have a fire inspection, this would be the process for us, like if they're gonna have a big deep fryer out there or something, we would be able to see that ahead of time and go, okay, you need a fire inspection, we're gonna get our fire department out here to check that.
So, Councilor Murray?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, councilors. So it sounds like to us that we need to update this ordinance, but some of my comments are that I think that for events like the Harvest Festival, I think the event holder should be the one that maybe counts and says, I'm going to have X number of food trucks. He is responsible then for making sure the insurance is all covered and the inspections are covered. I think these events, and then we just charge the event holder a flat fee. Also, I think I don't like the idea of a site development plan for a food truck, because if they're on wheels, they're going to move. And there's no sense locking in a food truck to a specific location, especially if it's going to be trailered out on a regular basis like Ex Novo might be doing. I don't, is that the intent?
I don't know the answer to that, but I think the intent is primarily to have it there, but I don't know that it's going to be in the same spot every time. So
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't make sense to me to have a site development plan because it is an expensive proposition. And obviously, we need to update this ordinance, you know, so, and I would not be opposed to a smaller fee, you know, if they want to apply for a business license and be on the property, if they have permission, then I think they're good to go, but.
Some
I mean-
municipalities don't charge a fee. Rio Rancho does not charge a fee. Los Ranchos does not charge a fee. They just charge their business licenses. The town of Bernalillo charges $100 per year. The city of Albuquerque charges $30 per event where the food truck is going to be. So it's basically a $30 per day.
I think the other consideration is Albuquerque is currently looking at a food truck court up in the Northeast Heights, and we probably ought to be thinking a little bit forward towards that if somebody were to come in. I know it's probably improbable, but if they want to develop a space for food court trucks, we need to probably be thinking about how we want to treat that as well.
And for what it's worth, real quickly, Bernalillo County accepts whatever city of Albuquerque does, because I happen to know my son, he has a food truck, so I know some of these things. But outside of that, it's all hit and miss. And they personally would like to know what to do it right. They just don't know what.
Yes, sir, Mr. Molman.
Melanie, I'm wondering, in your lengthy tenure, which I think may be coming up on a year,
Almost, yeah. Our next council meeting will be 1 year.
okay, have you heard anything from existing restaurants, objections to food trucks?
No, I haven't, but I haven't asked either. So I could probably get with Angela. She would probably, from Main Street.
Yep.
She has a little more contact.
Sure.
Face-to-face contact with some of the businesses. So Angela, if you're on and listening, I'm sorry, I'm volunteering you for one more.
You know, I can almost guarantee you,
Yes.
I can almost guarantee that someone's going to, if, look at these proposals or, and say that if there is a stationary food truck, it needs to be in the site plan. So I think we need to address that when we look at this, because someone is going to complain about that.
Yes.
Can I ask, are you talking about a food truck that is going to be there at all
Permanently.
times, or
Permanently.
a site for a food truck with revolving food trucks?
No, I'm talking about a food truck that is
A
going to
permanent-
be permanent. Because that's what a site plan would be, it's something that's permanent. If it's coming in and out, it isn't. But I'm just saying, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, because I've had issues with people calling me about site plans, you know, that were done years ago, and now it's like, it's changed.
Right.
So I'm just kind of saying that we need to address it.
As part of the.
Yeah. A couple other small things I think worth looking at if we're going to look at this whole thing is it says that they can't have generators, gas or electric generators, which every food truck has a generator.
Sure does.
None of them are plugging into buildings, so we need to explore that. I mean, generators are much quieter now than they were previously, so maybe we need to have some sort of decimal limit instead of just a hard stop on that. And then I think we need to look at how this jives with our sign ordinance, because
Yes.
food trucks, for all intents and purposes, are an RV-sized sign. So that is going to be difficult to how that matches up with other things we've addressed in the past 12 months.
John, did you say something?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick follow-up on the site development plan aspect. And while there are, the trucks may rotate through, for instance, at Ex Novo, the trucks are always in the same location on the site when they're present. So they're not present in all the time as a portable building or other fixed item might be, but they're always in the same place. And I think we should come up with a mechanism for understanding and possibly approving that aspect of it. We're concerned with parking and all sorts of other things. I think this falls in line with that kind of consideration.
So John, do you recall years ago, we had an issue with vendors coming to town with their little carts and going up and down Corrales Road, selling a variety of different things? And
I do.
they would park somewhere without permission and sell on the side of the road. And at that time, it was my impression that we had an ordinance, and this was before 2015 or 16. You've read that.
We had an ordinance on the books, and I believe it was rescinded in 2012 from my research, but in one of the original ordinances from 1971 covered, it was peddlers. In fact, I think our current.
Peddlers,
ordinance
yeah.
we actually, in our ordinance, we do have a thing under business licenses about itinerant peddlers.
That's it.
Which kind of tickles me. But no, we also had a thing that covered palm readers and fortune tellers. And, yes, and they all had to be permitted. And yeah, and gypsies, yeah. Circuses,
But it was
yes.
like $100 a day.
I think it was like $25 a day for some of them, but some of them were like 125. I think it
Well,
varied based on what type
it's-
of activity.
it
I think
seems
palm
like-
readers were charged more than.
I don't remember palm
Yeah.
readers, but it seems like Phil Gastar had pushed $100 a day because it did, as you alluded to earlier, it did have an impact when they were selling food products on some of the businesses that stayed here in the village, that were here in the village permanently. And so, yeah, it was probably an enticement to go out the other end of the village, as opposed to staying here and selling your wares.
Yeah, and I think this version of the ordinance, it does say it's $100 and it's an annual fee.
Yeah,
But the form that I found actually said $100 per day.
okay.
So that,
Yeah.
it's obviously. a whole
Yeah.
form.
Councilor Murray.
Mayor, also, I was just thinking about ice cream trucks, if they were to come up and down the road, maybe we need to take a look at
They
that.
are the only ones by ordinance that are allowed to have external speakers with music.
Yeah, that's actually in this ordinance.
It
This-
is, it is, yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, sir, Councilor Burkett.
I have a food truck related question just for my own information. What does the taxation look like on a food truck? Is the local taxes where the food truck is based out of or where they sell stuff that day? So are we collecting any sort of tax revenue when there's a food truck in the village? And how would we track that?
I don't know. That is a very good question.
Counselor, I remember that was part of our discussion long ago, was that the licensing interaction would enable us to remind them of the appropriate code that they should be using so that our village is credited with the tax.
Yes.
I have noticed on some of the other municipalities forms, like the one for Los Ranchos, it says right on here, note to vendor, the tax rate is 7.4375%, and the GRT code is, and it lists it. So that's probably why, so that they can put
Okay.
the correct code for that day's sales.
Okay.
We need to do that.
Yes, that does need to be on our form as well.
Anyone else? Okay, I guess we'll work on this.
All right, well, thank you for
I
taking
guess
the
we'll
time
work
to
on this.
take a look at this.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you very much.
Nice research.
Thanks.
Oh, man, if it's on the internet, she can find it. So it turns out that November 8th is Election Day. And, I don't want to interfere with your voting. So I'd like to move the next council meeting a week later to November 15th. Does anybody have any issue with that?
Just one question, Mayor. Is the month of November one of those months where we have only one meeting?
Yes. Unfortunately.
And I know we wanted to go to 2 meetings every month.
Yes.
Which would put this 2 days before Thanksgiving for the second, would be probably a week.
After.
We can arbitrarily put a meeting any day we want to. It's just that we have, at the beginning of the year, we said,
That's right, we do the 15th and the 29th.
We can do
currently
that,
only have-
but
currently
we
only have one
said-
meeting. Yeah, we only have one meeting scheduled for this November. We talked about adding in the second meeting next year when we do a new,
right.
Oh, I see.
We already passed it at the beginning of the year. We didn't, but those who were on the council at the time passed it. So next year, we will make sure we allow 2 meetings a month, because in November and December, we only have one meeting. And it does make it difficult when we need to get a grant in, or, get your approval to get some money, for example. So we do need to have 2 meetings a month,
Yeah.
just for that purpose. Also, we seem to, at certain periods, we get a lot of business, a lot of stuff comes up. So I need a motion. I'm not sure I need a motion. I guess we can just change it, but it would be nice if you guys all agree So can I get a motion to change the meeting to November 15th? Is that correct, Melanie?
Yes, yeah, it'll be just a week later.
Mayor, I move that we change the November meeting from November 8th to November 15th, 2022
Second.
at 6:30.
So I have a motion from Counselor Woolman and a second from Counselor Knight to change the meeting from the 8th to the 15th. John, is that okay with you?
It certainly is.
Okay. All right. Counselor Mira, is that okay with you?
It's okay. with me.
Counselor Woolman? How you? Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
You betcha.
You gonna be in town?
I'm going to try. I'm not going anywhere in November, that's for sure.
Okay. So that seems, let me see now. So that means, oh, we're at confirmation of commission appointments. So we have Andrew Burr being appointed to the Equestrian Advisory Commission. Now, is that to make it a full complement of commissioners?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
I'm sorry, still,
Can you repeat your question, please?
Andrew Burr's appointment to the Equestrian Advisory Commission, that makes it now a full complement?
No, we're still one short.
Still one short?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to confirm Andrew Burr to the
So moved.
Equestrian Advisory Commission?
Mayor, I move we approve Andrew Burr for the Equine Commission.
I'll second that.
Thank you, John. Who seconded it? Counselor Burkett?
Counselor Murray.
Counselor Murray? Okay. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, do we have, now, we are going to have a special meeting next week where we discuss different projects, and we will, if we have time, we'll address,
3 o'clock. Did we say 3 o'clock, I think?
yes, 3 o'clock. We'll address any, well, it's going to be an agenda, so we have to, and it will be an open meeting. So we have 4 things that we have put on there, which will, I think, fill an hour. What was the other item you wanted to put on here, Counselor Woolman?
No, I think we're going to probably work with council to iron out some on the animal.
Yes,
microchipping.
okay. All right, so microchipping, yes. All right, so the next regular council meeting will be October 25th. The work study will be October 18th. And it appears that the agenda has, all the business of the governing body has been completed. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Oh, just under the bell.
Yeah, one quick question. Last meeting, I asked for a status on the signalized crossings. And I'm just curious, maybe if you would just have Michael Chavez send all the counselors an update of where that's at, I'd be satisfied.
Michael, you there still? Okay, he quit. So you want to have an update? Do you want to have it during the work study?
Yeah, we can have it on the work study. That'd be great. I just asked for it last meeting and we didn't.
Yeah, I have it written down probably somewhere, but I don't know where.
Yeah.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
are we also going to talk about eventually the kitchen?
So the items that are on the work study, to answer your question, yes, include the animal. We're going to hopefully have more information on animal services. We're going to have more information on a commercial kitchen. We're going to talk about the fire suppression line, and we're going to talk about the sewer line. Okay? Adjourned.
All right. Thank you.